Hi, I'm Christi Friesen, and a lot of people have asked me, what's up? Where do you get this art stuff from? Tell us a little bit about yourself. Why do you do what you do? And this seemed like a really good opportunity just to sit here and kind of chit-chat a little bit about the person behind the clay, get to know me a little bit better, maybe put some of my wackiness into perspective. So I was born at a very young age, as many people have, and I am been an artist. I'm enjoying art from the time I can remember. My parents were very artistic, so we had a lot of art around the house. And I actually remember being enrolled, who even knows why, in an oil painting class when I was like 4. So they must have seen a little creative spark there. Now, why they picked oil painting, I don't even know, but I do remember that there was an awful lot of turpentine baths to get all that paint off my hands at the end of those classes. But I did make a Humpty Dumpty. Somebody somewhere has that original Christi Friesen piece of oil painting, probably the only one out there. But how did I get into clay? Well, like I mentioned, my parents and I have siblings. We were all very artistic, but my parents were into collecting artistic works, and my dad especially liked to collect artistic supplies. He didn't necessarily do anything with them. He just liked to have all the stuff that you'd need to make papier-mâché marionettes and a kiln, and how about a big thing to cut paper with, and while we're at it, let's get a screen printing system. So I had at my exposure all those things, and he didn't really mind if I used it. He just liked getting them. So for me, that was a very lucky break, because I could explore a lot of these artistic supplies and then kind of see what I like and what I didn't like. But the clay thing, the day that my dad brought home the kiln, that was a pretty big deal. He had been talking about it. He started taking some pottery lessons and wanted to throw pots, and so he brought home a kiln, whole big electric woohoo kiln, and a potter's wheel and a bunch of clay. And I remember, I think I was probably 7 or 8 at the time, going to school just buzzed with excitement. I'm sure I was a complete problem child in school, because all I could think of is when I get home, I get to make things out of clay. I'm going to be a famous sculptor. I just can't wait. So I rushed home from school, sat down, got the clay out, and made an ashtray and another blob ashtray and another. Nobody smoked. But when you're a kid and you think you're going to be exciting and you have no ideas, then you do make an awful lot of ashtrays. So I remember being somewhat devastated and thinking, well, how in the world can I ever be the most exciting artist in the universe if I'm only making these ashtrays? Something has got to happen here. I'm sure the 8-year-old version of that was much more simple. But what happened was, at that point, I started actively thinking about what do I want to make, and kept a little journal, and whenever I saw an idea, I was like, oh, that'd be fun if I made that little owly guy with those eyeballs. And I'd scribble it down in my little journal. So when I came home from school, I could look at my thing and go, oh yes, yesterday I remembered that cat would be fun to make. And then I'd know what I was doing. I'm sure someone along the way probably hinted that that was a good thing. I'd like to think I was so brilliant that I discovered journaling on my own, but I doubt that. However, what it did help me do is to focus my artistic excitement into something tangible. And the reason I bring that up is many of you who are creative as well have days that are just full of activity, and you have very little time to be creative. And when you do, it's sometimes hard to unwind from your school brain or work brain or whatever and get into creative mode. So keeping little scraps or Pinterest boards or whatever it is to give you ideas, I found it very helpful at a young age. I still do it. And if you haven't tried that, it might be something you want to do. So clay. Clay was a huge part of my life. And this was earth and clay, kiln fired clay. And recently I found this little box of some of the clay pieces that survived all those years. And I looked, and then I thought, wow, I'm doing a lot of the same kind of artwork, hopefully a slightly more sophisticated, but it's very similar. You can see the roots of what I do now even way back there. We kind of start establishing our creative tastes rather young in life. So if you had something you really liked as a kid and you haven't done it for a while, think about that again. Astronaut, ballerina, it's all still possible. You might be one of those, but artistically anyway, there's definitely some things in your past that might be fun to do, and I found that the case. So after I did all my clays through school and, on the side, and had some fun, sold pieces and had pieces for friends, all that good stuff, went off and, got grown up and kids and careers and all that sort of thing. At some point, the middle-aged crisis set in, and I thought, if I don't be an artist now, I'm going to be this old lady, and I'm going to have to work for a living because I'm not independently wealthy, and that's going to be a frickin' drag because I already don't like it. So if I can be a world-famous artist now, then when I'm 80, all I got to do is basically smash an ashtray again and people will buy it, because that's all I'll be capable of at that point, or 90 or 100 or wherever. But anyway, something like that kind of took me over in my 30s, and I thought, man, it's time to get serious. I'd always done artistic things, but I hadn't really focused on the fact that I want to be an artist. Well, There is a phrase, starving artists, and there's a reason for that, because it's not one of those jobs that you do and suddenly money is pouring in from the ceilings. It can be a career, it can be lucrative, but it's not necessarily going to set the world on fire. I've been lucky. What I do has evolved into something that a lot of people like. They want me to come and show them how I make what I make. They want to buy books that I write. So I've been lucky in the sense that my artistic journey has made it possible for me to eat the kind of chocolate cakes that I prefer now. I don't have to just get the Hostess Ding Dongs. I can move right on up to the Belgian chocolate ganache. And I find that to be a pinnacle of success for me. So anyway, I've enjoyed this little journey. And what I've thought has been the most exciting about this is, we create for different reasons. We create because we want to. And heaven knows I create to amuse myself. If I'm not chuckling or amused with what I'm doing, then what's the point? I can get a real job. So if I'm not amused, it's not worthwhile. But I have been delighted that you guys all seem to be rather amused with what I'm up to too. And you want to see more of it and buy some of it and learn how to do it and listen to me yammer on in videos and listen to my crazy stories about traveling all over the world to tell other people in other countries who want to hear about how to make a lump puppy or whatever. So it's been rather exciting and challenging. And the fun thing about all of that is it's taken me to places I didn't expect. Now, not everybody gets that out of their career. They may have one weekend a month where they make something fun. It's an ornament, they put it on the tree, and they're fine with that. They make something for their grandkids, and they get joy out of that. Perfectly fine. Me, of course, I tend to like the spotlight a little bit, so being in the center of attention where people are paying attention to me and watching what I do amuses me, and I like it. But it really isn't so far from my little child self, who like to make things and show them off to peers and family members in school and say, look what I made. And the kids around me would go, ooh, would you make another dinosaur? Well, yes, I can. It's kind of not really been much of a gap between then and now. So I'm lucky. I get to do something I really, really like. And in the process, I've gotten to travel and get to know other people. And one of the things that I found that's the most interesting thing about being this clay person, and I'll tell you how come polymer and not earth and clay. But one of the things I found the most exciting about that is everywhere I go all over the world, from Japan to Australia to Europe, the people who sit down with me and make clay, we're very much the same people, male, female, young and old. We're driven by this enjoyment of creativity. We have found a medium that works for us, and it doesn't matter which language we're doing it in. We're all enjoying chocolate and having a good time. So polymer, why polymer, not earth and clay? Well, I'm so glad you asked me, and there's an answer to that. I did earth and clays when I was younger, and I grew up, went off to college, went to another state, started doing other things. Like I said, midlife crisis set in, and I go, I need to be an artist, work. So I tried painting and collage and various things, loved all of them, enjoyed various successes to some degree or another with those. But I found myself in a little gallery, and wall space was at a premium. In most galleries, people are doing works on paper or paintings, and so every wall space is, there's a sign-up list before you get your thing on the wall. But there was all this empty space in the middle, and there would be one or two little pillars and a pot or sculpture on it, and I thought, well, I like sculpture. Look at all that floor space. I could take that over. So I went to start researching getting my kiln again and all this other stuff. I knew it would be expensive and I'd have to rewire parts of the house. And I bumped into somebody who was working with polymer clay, and they said, well, have you ever tried this stuff? And I'm like, what? So I bought a book, and I bought some clay, and I took it home, and I went, oh my. I don't have to, not that I don't love earth and clay, but I don't have to go through all that stuff. I can play with this plastic clay right here, right now. It's in color, doesn't blow up in the kiln, and wonder of wonders, I can stick beads and things in it. And that was the selling point for me. So now, as I play with polymer, I see what stuff I can stick in there. So there's fibers and there's paper and there's gold and silver leaves on the surface, and there's every kind of gemstone and pearl imaginable, found objects, things I find in the floor, paint on top of it. If you can put it or stick it on polymer clay, I do it, because this medium for me allows all those parts of me that I liked. The painting child from long ago has paint on her clay right now. The person who made all those little sculpturing things, I'm still that girl. Beads, which I love, but really don't make a lot of jewelry now. I can just jam them in clay and I'm happy. So polymer does it for me. And I found along the way that y'all kind of like it too. So it's been really fun to share. So that's a little bit behind the scenes of this clay girl that you know is Christi, and I have enjoyed myself tremendously. And I thank all of you for following along and being excited about clay with me. Thanks. And I'll keep claying, you keep watching. Bye.